Art Hillman.
Here.
Angie Skillings. Here. Carl Palmer.
Here.
Abe Smith.
Here.
Dominique Stewart. Here. Rachel Henderson. Here. Gail Nelson.
Here. We have a forum. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The school district of the Menomonie area, by embracing the unique needs and using the strengths of our diverse community, is dedicated to preparing all students to become lifelong learners, caring individuals, and responsible citizens. Is there any changes, revisions to the agenda? All right, hearing none. Recommendations and commendations, also none listed for this evening. Agenda item F, student representative communications. Joe, would you like to introduce our new reps?
I would. Katrina Kowalski and Rebecca Ayler, if you two would come up. So Katrina is the president of the Menomonie High School student body, and Rebecca is the vice president. I had an opportunity to meet with both girls today, this morning, at the high school, and they're going to be providing monthly reports to the school board. So thank you for joining us. Thanks for your service all this school year. We hope it's a great year at Menomonie High School, and go ahead and take it away.
As you said, I am Rebecca Ayler. I am a senior at Menomonie High School, and I'm the vice president of the executive board. First thing we want to go over is the crew. Ms. Ruthie, Ms. Flint, and Mr. Miller all said it was a very good year of freshman orientation. And the Link Crew in the high school is a transition program that welcomes the freshmen and makes them feel comfortable throughout their first years of high school. And the Link Crew leaders are mentors who guide freshmen to discover what it takes to be successful in high school. And we are very excited to see what the Link Crew has in store for this year. And everything we want to bring to the table is the password reset. Students had a very hard time just resetting the passwords at the high school that we know of, and staff did not give us enough information about the resets that students that had that help the students. So we were just thinking maybe if you had a more technical, we could do another password reset, that would help a lot. And also in the middle school and the high school, I think we did the password reset a little bit too close together, and I think the tech crew that had to take the calls and stuff were a little bit overlapped without the copies that they had.
Hi, my name is Katrina Kowalski, and I'm a junior at the high school, and I'm the student body president. So Mr. McMahon's environmental biology students were joined by community member Richard Green for a day of tagging monarch butterflies most sustainably from promote bee parasite infections. Homecoming, our theme is Nature this year, our slogan is Into the Wild. If any board members want to chaperone, they are welcome to chaperone. All our planning is going to very advanced coordinate and coordination. Student council grants. We offer grants to high school groups and classes. The criteria include student leadership and new opportunities. For some of the sports in high school, football is 2 and 2. Cross country got 6th place out of 12 teams on Saturday. And tennis is doing very well. They won all their games against Japan.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. We're really happy to have you. All right, moving on to communications. The comments of the people in the school district of the Menomonie area are encouraged and appreciated by the board and administrators. Education is a partnership with the schools, parents, and taxpayers, all being important participants. Members of the public are welcome to provide comments to the board during the community communications item listed on the agenda. This is the time to air concerns and express your opinions on issues. There should be no negative personal attacks against any individuals, including staff, board members, or administrators. The opinions, beliefs, and viewpoints expressed by the various speakers during community communications do not necessarily reflect the opinions, beliefs, or viewpoints of individual board members, the board as a whole, or the school district of the Menomonie area, nor do they reflect the policies of the SDMA. Speakers will be given 3 minutes on my timer here, and the first speaker is Josie Kelman. Sir.
My name is Josie Kelvin, and I live at 235 Third Avenue East, Knapp, Wisconsin, and that is in the Menomonie School District. I'm turning this way, the board has already received my speech, so hopefully you can hear. The voice isn't real loud. Okay?
Can you speak a little louder so we can maybe hear something?
Oh, okay, so.
Yeah, maybe sideways.
Sideways,
Yeah.
over here. This way.
Sure. That's better.
Okay. Dr. Zadowski, ladies and gentlemen of the board, I found this dangerous book in the Knapp Elementary School, and I'll quote from it. Ruthie is a transgender girl. That means when she was born, everyone thought she was a boy. Until she grew a little older, old enough to tell everyone that she's actually a girl. But not everyone feels like either a boy or a girl. This is Ruthie's friend Alex. Alex is both a boy and a girl. Call her Dash. JJ is neither a boy nor a girl. See, when you were born, you couldn't tell people who you were or how you felt. They looked at you and made a guess. Maybe they got it right, maybe they got it wrong. What a baby's body looks like when they're born can be a clue to what the baby's gender will be, but not always. Your feelings about your gender are real. Listen to your heart. This book is filled with myths and lies. Feelings do not inform us of our sex. Biology does. You educators know that young children are made to trust adults in their lives to tell them the truth about this world. When trusted teachers put lies into the minds of children, they just might believe them. What other lies are the children being taught that the children just might believe? Seeds are being planted in young minds. Teaching lies is always wrong. In middle school, those seeds begin to mature, and the children begin to mature and change. And finally, in high school, those myths can lead down a dark pathway of transitioning, mutilation, permanent sterility, and even suicide. Ladies and gentlemen of the school board, please remove this book from SDMA. Also, a second book, a board book for even younger lives, kids that can't even read yet. Love makes a family. Now I'm quoting from a man named Mr. Carl Truman, an idea that now grips the popular imagination and many teachers believe. Sex is not primarily something we do, it is something we are. Take, for example, the terms lesbian, gay, bisexual, and straight. Today they are intuitively meaningful to us. Yet in conceding that point, we concede that desire, not action, defines sex, which defines us. To say I am straight is to make an identity claim, but is not to assert that I have ever had a sexual encounter with someone else. It is a statement of felt desire, not action. Technology panders to the myths that fallen human beings want to believe about themselves. First, that we are free, answerable to no one, and masters of our own destinies. Second, okay. So you get the idea. Thank you.
Alex Hall.
The purpose of using communication to the community to address the board, that's not correct. I actually think that should be the priority to make. We have microphones for those to address last time.
Fair enough. Alex.
So I will address the board.
Name and address.
Yep, ready? Hi, my name is Alexandra Hall. I live in the city of Menomonie, and my son attends the high school. I apologize in advance for not staying for the whole meeting, but the choir picked me tonight, and I wanted to meet the teacher. Yeah. All right, I'm excited. All right. I have heard on multiple occasions during these meetings, during public comment, that wrong is always wrong. I'd like to address that correctly. There are, in fact, times when wrong is always wrong. I think that all of us would agree that to lie, cheat, or steal is wrong. To physically injure another person or to damage someone's property is wrong. To be cruel, unkind, or manipulative is wrong. Not only do we all pretty much agree that these are wrong, but so do most religions and cultural codes, including those enshrined in law. All of these actions have something in common. They do harm to another person. When what you're doing directly hurts someone else, it's fair to say that wrong is always wrong. The case is different, however, when the behavior is purely on the individual level and has no direct effect on others. In that scenario, what is wrong in one religious or cultural group is not always wrong in another. For example, most Hindus do not eat beef, no hamburgers. Orthodox Jews will eat beef but not combined with dairy, no cheeseburgers. Catholics don't eat meat on Fridays during Lent. Muslims don't eat pork. What is wrong for one group is not wrong for the others. In some cultures, it is wrong to have your head uncovered, yet in others, it's wrong to cover it. There are many religious and cultural rules that govern individual behavior in different ways. But the important thing is those rules are not universal. They don't apply to everyone. Wrong is not always wrong. These rules do not apply to people who are not part of that group, because breaching those rules does not harm others. Wrong is not always wrong when you don't hurt others. It's the same thing when it comes to being gay or transgender. In some religious or cultural groups, this is seen as wrong, but in others, it's not wrong at all. Since it doesn't directly harm someone else, it's not universally wrong. It's in the same category of eating meat on Fridays. And we live in a free country. We are not bound to follow all of the various rules of all the different religious or cultural groups. We are free to follow our own conscience, as long as what we're doing is not directly harming others. Any attempts to dictate that schools or any other public institution enforce or even promote these non-universal specific rules from particular religious groups is a violation of our personal freedoms and is frankly un-American.
Jeff Hastings.
Hastings. What? Jeff Hastings, Menomonie, 112 13th Street Northeast. Family of longtime head women's tennis coach Wendy Hastings are proposing to name the high school tennis courts in her honor. We will cover all expenses for this, which will include signage and installation. We will work with the activities director and the school board as necessary as to specifics for the sign, such as name and placement. We're also planning to give scholarships to student athletes each summer to attend tennis and life camp at the Davis College College. Our goal is to have the signs done and in place by the first home matches in fall of 2023. Some of her coaching achievements: 38 years coached, 440 plus dual wins. She was an instigator hitting new tennis courts, ranked as one of the top 4 coaches in the state for high school girls tennis and dual wins. Consistently averages 30 plus players each year for the high school team. Started the middle school tennis program in 2012 by volunteering her time to get the program going, which now supports over 30 boys and 30 girls each year. She was proud of her no-cut tennis, never cut an athlete from the team. She had over 50 state qualifiers during her career. She wrote and received tens of thousands in grants to help Menomonie tennis and athletics in the community. We are aware of the 2015 policy for naming the sports complex and gymnasium. This policy does not address the tennis courts. We feel that policy was developed for the corporate sponsorship. Our proposal is something different and is a way to honor Wendy's accomplishments and contributions over her 38 years of coaching. We as a family, along with countless supporters in the community, as well as outside the community, including the United States Tennis Association, have established a memorial fund for the purpose of supporting Menomonie tennis for many years to come. In closing, we would like the opportunity to work with the school board and the Menomonie School District in naming the tennis courts to honor Wendy's legacy. Thank you.
Greg Emerson.
Very good. I live in the support. One of the coaches at Transgender, and I'm just going to echo what John said. I've known Sue for 30-some years. We just came together up here. She's a mentor, leader, coach. And people look at the courts, community. So I think you guys, I'm not telling you what to ask. Revisit it. You have somebody coach for that long, that's a must be back. Some committees, some Tennessee. Again, I was looking at the policy, other coaches, one for the same thing, families, also being coaches. I don't know if any other coaches in the area that coach that long into this. Again, just in here, this is that. Please consider.
Great. Rice.
I'm Bryce Pride, N6, 778, 539th Street, Menomonie. The last 12 years I've been coaching boys since senior high school. Last 10 of those head. Also, in the last 10 years, I've been able to work alongside on the Gates team. I want to talk quickly about the tennis courts and just, if you have ever been out to tennis courts, there's so many things out there that just say money Gates things to you. You might not know that because you're self-watching, but I just want to explain some things. If you go out to the tennis courts, there's a walkway right on the middle of the courts. That walkway was designed and pushed forward by Wendy Gates. We were lucky enough to get some tennis courts. You look over a little bit farther on the tennis courts, you see that every court has a bench. There's over 20 benches on the tennis courts. Every one of those benches was fundraised by Wendy Gates. You look a little farther, you see a giant pavilion with a cement bottom on that. I think it was a $6,000 project. USDA matching grant written by Wendy Gates. Further along down the courts, you see electricity conduit that's run up and down tennis courts. Another $3,400 project that was again fundraised by Wendy Gates and had a matching grant for that as well. All of that stuff is because of Wendy Gates. All those sort of things on the tennis courts is because of Wendy Gates. And those are the Wendy Gates tennis courts. I just think they should officially be named as Wendy Gates tennis courts as well. Thank you.
Allie, Lauren, and JC.
That is wonderful. I'm Lauren. I'm Jason. We're all athletes of the tennis team that's here for the 2022 season. We've all been able and have been able to have Wendy as a coach for the last 3 years. She's touched all of us. And they here at varsity tennis team has shown up to attest to that. She's been a board of tennis world for a while now. She was coaching for over 30 years. She was completed for over 40. She taught at the middle school. She started the middle school tennis program, and she has had such an impact on the tennis team since she started. I remember my freshman year, she hunted me down after cross country practice and had to run the tennis team. Little did she know, I'd be playing #1 singles this year, my senior year. I'd be more thankful that I actually did join the tennis team. She was a high school alumni and Menomonie alumni, as well as a Menomonie tennis team alumni. She's coached more kids I can count and more state qualifiers I can count. JC was a state qualifier last year that Wendy coached her all the way. They made it past the 3rd round last year, and she was very, very strong role to make sure that everyone knew who the tennis team was. She made sure that we had an aim to do great this year. Right now, we're tied for 2nd in the USC conference. It's been great in the last couple of years. And even when she was sick, she came back in Tosha, and she's planning on doing us again this year. So I think that since she's such a, and she can be such a competitive team, she did such a career in this community that we let her go on the list.
You guys are having an excellent season so far, so keep it up. I think with that number of comments, it's worth mentioning, and I think everyone will probably realize the board can't take any action on an item like this tonight. It's community communications related to posted agendas and so forth. I know, Joe, you met with Kelly this summer. What would you suggest for next steps to further the conversation?
First of all, Jeff, Tyler, Booster Club people, tennis players, thanks for being here. This is terrific. I did have the opportunity to meet with Jeff and Tyler this summer, and this is kind of step one in a process. Right now, the school district policy, and the district's been around for over 100 years. The district's policy is not to name school buildings, school facilities after people. In 2015, the school district did adopt a sponsorship policy. So what we're doing is following the current policy. And what needs to happen, if the board wants to take this up, the board would then request that that policy be reviewed, and then from there, the board can change the policy. It's not advised, it's really not legal for the board just to take action against one of its own policies. But that's not to say that the board doesn't have the power to change policy and provide direction for the future. So my suggestion would be if board members would like to review the policy, that be put on the next meeting agenda for review. Typically, policies are reviewed at least 2 meetings, and then the policy may be changed. So from the administrative standpoint, the administration takes our direction from school board policy, and the board's directive will dictate what we do in terms of any recommendations related to naming tennis courts or anything else. I do want to point out, and I know we talked about this summer, we do have a policy that allows for memorials. That wouldn't be naming a facility, but I am 100% in favor of providing a memorial for Coach Hastings out at the tennis courts. We also have the Distinguished Alumni Award, which I think Mrs. Hastings would be absolutely appropriate to be an award recipient of the Distinguished Alumni Award. And there's also the Athletic Hall of Fame. I think she's as good of a candidate as we've seen. So I definitely think that we want to work together. I want to work together in recognizing Coach Hastings. And I really appreciate everyone's time for being here tonight. I'm sure the board does as well. But board members, would you like to see this on a future agenda to talk about the policy?
Yeah.
Anybody object to that?
So we'll bring that back in 2 weeks as a discussion item. Is that correct? So appreciate it again. I needed so much of the school, the students, and thank you for all coming in and speaking. Keep going, you guys.
You're all welcome to stay, but we are going to move on to other business. Thank you.
So we got here?
If anybody wants to move up, so you can hear better, please feel free to move up. If you're not staying. Before we continue with the meeting, I would like to recognize River Heights Principal Mike Kennedy, Mike, and also my assistant Jenny Meichel. This is part of a schedule that the board has set up to visit each school this fall and take tours of the buildings and then have meetings at those schools. We had planned to have this in a more intimate atmosphere in the library. But when we got word that there was going to be a large crowd, we thought we better move it into this cafeteria, which we know is not ideal. We know it's difficult to hear. So thank you for your patience. And Mike and Jenny, thank you, and the custodians and everyone else who helped. Thanks for making this fly. Appreciate it.
All right, moving on, item H, revenue and expenditure reports for the month ended June 2022 and August 2022.
Leah, go ahead.
Okay, so here in September, we always look at the June revenues and expenditures, since it's the fiscal year end, and then we also review August revenue and expenditures. So first off, we're gonna start with June revenues. And I know it's kind of hard to hear, but I'm just gonna touch on some of the notes for each of these. So for revenues in general fund 10, just to be aware, we received our computer aid that was received in July, but it's booked back to June. For the first time, we qualified for high-cost transportation aid. You'll see it listed there, up kind of towards the top. We received in just over $46,000 for that. That's based on when the per member transportation costs reach around 140% of the statewide average. So this year we had qualified. And then we had to record both the revenue and expenditure for our computer lease. GASB issued a statement 87, which required government accounting to change the way that we record our leases for the district. And we had a capital lease for our copiers. And so there was an increase in revenues due to the value of that equipment from the lease. Normally, that wouldn't be in here, but that's a new requirement from now going forward. So that increased our revenues about $226,000. And then lastly, the timing of the CTP incentive grant. You'll notice I have that listed there under the towards the bottom, the grant section. It shows the budget at $36,692 and then no revenue. The DPI is releasing the revenue late this year, so we're going to get that in September, I think, but it's not a requirement to look at that. So we'll get the revenue, it's just in a different fiscal year. And then in 121, we received in about $624,000, and then in 127, special education, we received $6.8 million. Everything pretty the standard for the Moving on to the expenditures, if you look at the breakdown by object, for the year we're at 98.96% compared to 95.85% last year. I've listed again that financial reporting of the lease because there was a corresponding expenditure with that. And then also we did make that additional Fund 46 transfer. That was about $1.6 million in additional transfer into Fund 46 from the general. Looking at the breakdown in Fund 10 for the functions, we're at 100.16% compared to 95.61%. Again, that increase in police expenditures has driven that up along with that additional Fund 46 transfer. Does anyone have any questions on the reports? Okay, then moving on to August, we have our revenues. August is a pretty low revenue month as far as state aids and federal grants are concerned. So we received it in $16,586.73 in local revenues. In our Fund 21 gift donation account, we received it in $10,731.
Leah, can I interrupt you for a second? So when Leah says that August is a low revenue month, this can be a very challenging time for schools, because if you think about it, so many of our expenses, so many of the supplies, so many of the books, so much of that stuff needs to be purchased ahead of the school year. So because we don't receive the revenue in a equalized manner throughout the year, it's really important that we have cash on hand so that we can keep our budget balanced and keep our bank accounts solid. So as you all know, years ago, we developed a plan for fiscal security for the school district because like a lot of school districts, Menomonie was in a situation where a lot of schools have to borrow, short-term borrow to make sure you have enough funds on hand while you're waiting for your revenue to come in. So the board, I think it was back in 2014, 2015, really prioritized getting our fund balance to a point where we would not have to short-term borrow. We also worked with our local bank, and we are able to have a line of credit available in the event that the revenue is delayed to the point where we would not have enough funds locally. We could get a line of credit, which saves us thousands of dollars in short-term interest costs. So I don't think most people understand that part of school finance, and I think it's something we can be very proud of here in Menomonie, that one, we don't have to short-term borrow, and secondly, we haven't had to tap into a line of credit, but we do have it set up in the event that we need it. So kudos to Leah and her team and past boards for getting us to this point. It's getting tighter and tighter every year. We know that, but we're in a good position here in Menomonie.
Okay, then moving on to the next August expenditures by object. The percentage this year through the month of August is 5.65% compared to 6.12%, so just under where we were at last year at the same time. The only difference is from one year to the next, I've noted there would be the timing of bills. It might be a little lower this year compared to last year because something was paid in August that this year might be paid in September. And then the next report is the expenditures by function overall. We're at 6.35% for August compared to 6.41% in the general fund, and then Fund 27, we're at 0.89% compared to 1.54%. And lastly, Food Service Fund 50, we're at 3.15 compared to 4.06. Any questions on those?
No questions? Item I, monthly employment report.
So this is a standard report that's on every regular board meeting. You can see that there has been some action, quite a bit of action as we get ready for the school year. We've said this multiple times this summer, staffing is more challenging now than it's been in generations. So kudos to the principals, kudos to the HR department. We're very pleased with the staffing. We are still looking for substitutes, paraeducators, and other hourly employees. So if anybody in the community does not want to work full-time, but you'd be interested in helping us out periodically, please stop at the Administrative Service Center. We'd love to get you signed up and put you on our substitutes list for whatever positions you think might fit. So Samantha White is here. You can talk to her after the meeting. We're always looking for great substitute employees. Thank you.
All right, moving on to the consent agenda. The items on the consent agenda: minutes of the regular board meeting of August 15th, special board meeting of August 22nd, and the annual meeting of August 22nd. Financial reports: general fund checks in the amount of $1.409166781, and cash receipts for $84,1826 for August. Donations, none at the time of this publication. And the Special Education Cooperative Services Agreement with Falls and Menomonie School District, and travel for the National FFA Convention in Indianapolis, October 26th through 29th. I have a motion to approve. Amy? Seconded?
Who's the second?
Mark. Any discussion? Questions?
The travel for National FFA Convention, I'm just curious, is there like a dollar amount that the requirement that the board uses, or how does that work?
There's a policy that lays out how much different groups are able to get reimbursement from the board. I believe the FFA, and Mr. Mayor's not here, I believe they qualify for up to 50% of expenses depending on what's been budgeted. But I know that they're in the process of fundraising. But really that's already in policy. What the board is approving is the actual national travel itself. The policy requires board approval for that national travel.
Any other questions, concerns, discussion? All right, let's vote. Motion passes unanimously. 3A, personnel consent agenda. There was one resignation since the initial agenda went out that was linked on 9/9. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Angie, second. Mark? Okay. Go ahead and vote. Motion passes unanimous. Moving on to the action agenda. Letter A, approve revisions to policy 455, local wellness policy. I have a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Rachel, and seconded by Angie. Yep, Joel.
Just a reminder, the board reviewed this policy at the last school board meeting. Changes were made through a committee structure involving a number of district leaders and employees. These changes not only help us match our policy to best practice, but also with legal requirements based on regulations at the state and federal level. So it is recommended that the board approve this tonight.
So Joe said we reviewed it last time. Is there questions or concerns?
This is maybe not even worth mentioning, but I mentioned it earlier. So I think it's like a fantastic document overall. There's one phrase I find kind of grating in the document, which is the end of the first paragraph, ends with, you know, you got the language here. Improved health optimizes student performance and helps to ensure that no child is left behind. I think the phrase "no child is left behind" is, as a political framework, we don't need to invoke. It's kind of accidentally invoked in some district, but don't invoke necessarily. And I also find it kind of an awkward phrase. I think maybe a better way in that sense would be so that students can reach their full potential, something along those lines. Just rephrasing that so it doesn't accidentally trigger any unnecessary argumentation.
So proposed amendment.
Proposed amendment to just change that phrase slightly to something less cumbersome.
Would it be eligible to say improved health optimizes student performance?
Yeah, I just ended there.
Make it a shorter sentence. Rachel, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I was gonna second that.
Okay. And you made the second, right?
Okay.
Are you okay with that small change? You're under purchasing rules. Last sentence. So it's just saying improved health optimizes student performance.
Much of it came from sample language from either the school board association or from the Department of Health and Instruction.
Is that palatable? Yep. So with those changes, we'll go ahead and vote. Not changes, sorry.
We click the upper right, you can change both.
Passes unanimous. 4B, approve addition to the 2022-23 staffing plan, SPED paraeducators at River Heights and Menomonie Middle School. Do I have a motion? Rachel, second. Seconded.
Board members received the background, and Tony is here for his questions, but based on the numbers that were projected and then the actual numbers that we've seen in the first 2 days of school, additional staffing is needed in the special education program at both River Heights and middle school. So it is recommended that the board approve these 2 additions to the staffing plan. Any questions?
The request for parents, take into account the item that we approved monthly documents, that will be part.
That's a separate issue. He asked if this is related to the personnel consent agenda
Okay.
with that resignation, and it's not. This is a separate issue.
This would be stacking in addition.
Yes. Yes.
And do you intend to have a ELO request forward to the next week's call?
Well, that's already part of the staffing plan. So we won't need to have the staffing plan approved.
Gotcha.
What we would need to have approved is a appointment agreement, and that's probably going to take a little time.
Thank you. You and I asked that funding wise, we're sitting on page.
Right. This is exactly why we carry a contingency in each annual budget, because everything we staff on, everything we plan on is based on our best projections. But people would be surprised how much mobility there is in K-12 education these days, especially in counties seed like Menomonie. We're getting students in and out pretty much on a daily basis. And when students come in with high needs, especially if they already have an IEP that's developed that calls for certain services, we may or may not already have staffing for those services. And when we don't have staffing for those services, these are the recommendations that come forward to the board.
Any other questions? Go ahead and vote. That's unanimous. 4C, approve revisions to the SDMA employee handbook. Is there a motion to approve the changes? Angie, is there a second? Amy, second.
So board members, these are a couple changes as school started and we had our staff meetings. Mrs. White, the Director of Human Resources, came forward with these recommendations. 2 things. One, the employee handbook that came to the board last summer, there have been changes in COVID protocols. So the employee handbook has now been updated to reflect the current practices in the school district. And then secondly, we plan to continue with offering our substitute teachers with a free school lunch as part of our incentive to attract and retain teacher substitutes. So both of those items have been added to the handbook, and we're recommending your approval tonight.
Discussion. All right. Motion passed unanimously. Moving again, there is such a thing. 5A, summer school report.
So tonight we have John Sam. Not only is John an assistant principal at high school, John also serves as our summer school director for the school district. And John will go ahead and take it away.
Thank you for having me here. I know you guys qualify ahead of time. Just kind of a new addition that was on there as well as kind of a data sheet. What are some of the numbers that we got for summer students here? For those that might not be aware, our summer school programming is 20 days of enrichment review program. So between 2 buildings. So we're up at the high school. We're gonna do a lot of those enrichment activities, like classes, sports, things of that nature. A lot of them going on in that building. Here, actually, at her, right, so we're doing a lot of we do some of the real at high school, but the majority is the we also offer 3 week-long summer camps that also take place here. Those are themes of the hard camp, so in our main program, we have a team camp and a team. We're also having students over at South that are part of how the programming when they're different community teams. This year we started to see a rise increase in our enrollment, which is great. Last year we did have our students that worked together in cohorts, so kind of reactions to some COVID. So we had kids that would take 4 classes and they stay with that group all day long. This year we went back to how things were previously, where we had to pick a different hour. So we did see our enrollment at the high school go up to just over 900 students, and at River High School just over 240 students. So we're getting back to kind of our 2019 where we want to see those things come back to. Our camps also had an increase. We're up to about 600 kids that are listening to music. We are also institutes that are taking classes in health, civics, and personal financial management at high school. We had students that earned 89 completed courses, so we had a lot of credits. That opens up during the year, so those students can take some other classes and expand. We also have some students, like I said, at high school that are working on credit recovery. So we did have students 156 students that worked in credits, actually 160 half credits. So it's a great opportunity for those students to get back some of those credits they may have. As you go through the PowerPoint, you're taking that, it's awesome that we can see a lot of smiley faces. It's a pretty busy time of the year. If you ever stop by anyone in the schools while it's in session, it's pretty exhausting for a lot of people. It's moving all over the place and a lot of fun activities, which we're really excited about. One of the other things I was very excited this year is we got back to having our field trips, which we weren't able to have last year. So we did get back to those this year. We had some kids go to Steyer Farms, fishing in that pond, which is always exciting. And then first time ever, we had a field day at the high school, so we had students participate in some outdoor activities. We were very fortunate with good weather. So it was pretty hot, so we had to do a lot of obstacles on that field day because we got through it. Our summer camps, like I said, were great this year. We had our AIM students, so we partnered with South, we had 12 artists coming from South, and we worked with our kids along with the teachers. So they also get a chance to see what it's like to work with students in the classroom, so it's a great collaboration. Some other things to highlight real briefly. What I don't want to miss on is I want to have a huge thank you to Menomonie Transportation. They're such a huge integral part of our programming, getting our kids to and from every day, also on the field trips, and also kids go to the environmental site. There's a fishing class, and some more fishing during the day. So a big thank you to them. Good nutrition. They served over 27,000 meals this year. So between breakfast and lunch, anybody who's hungry gets that. So they did this amazing job in all the programs. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that's involved. I don't know that everybody can really fathom how many hands and what's in this process, but I don't know anybody at this office that doesn't touch part of this in some way, shape, or form. You see me calling and asking questions and just at all the high school levels, all of our teachers, I can't thank everybody. There's a lot of people that go on to make this happen. Any questions about summer?
That's just amazing. Everything in there is just amazing. But almost 18,000 lunches. When you stop and think about feeding that many kids. I also think about the Menomonie Transportation as well. We visited them a couple of months ago, no months, over to the bus drivers. And, those drivers really care about those kids as much as anybody here at the buildings. And so another shout out to the bus drivers. My only question, as a quick one, is AIM, STEAM, and TEAM. Are those open to everyone? Are they selected in a certain way?
They're open to, they are capped, but they are open to anyone. So our registration process is kind of rescheduling and opens up, and it's everybody has a chance to get into that. You can put a cap on that, but anybody is accepted.
Team is science, technology, engineering,
Arts.
and math, right?
So every class there is themed in one of those different areas.
Phenomenal. Any questions on this?
I just also wanted to comment what a fantastic program the Menomonie Summer School program is. As a parent, I feel so lucky for the city side of Menomonie that what we have is so incredible. I really love the outdoor science. I would do that again. My grade, that was great. And my oldest kid is in this presentation 3 times, so nice job.
It's heavy, actually.
Most of that in his head, but I know.
I have a summer graduate of the health programs too, so that's nice. Good to open up another option for the regular school year. It's nice to have. All right, excellent.
Very nice.
Timeline, 5B, timeline and process for medical insurance renewal.
So we've got a lot of great things to talk about tonight, a lot of successes. And the rubber's going to hit the road here a little bit when we talk about the health insurance. We've been very fortunate in the school district. I think it's 6 years in a row now that we have not had to raise our premiums or change our plan design in any noticeable way. The cost of health insurance is catching up on us. And every year at this time, we're getting ready for our renewal and we're working with our consultants. In the last 2 years, it's actually been somewhat enjoyable. But I think this year it's going to be more difficult. And but I think we're up to the task, and I know we're going to come up with a great plan. Hopefully, have minimal changes, if any. But we do know that this is something we're going to have to look at really closely this year. Leah put together a real nice document that kind of lays out the timeline. And a lot of work has already been going into this. There's a lot of work that has to be done to provide our consultant with our demographic information, a review of all of our claims data, and all of the data having to do with our funds has to be reviewed and shared so that then we can get a competitive bid from hopefully a number of carriers. Now, board members, you can see the list in there. The board did appoint Carl to serve on the committee. We have a health medical committee, and the first meeting of that committee will be this week on Thursday. And we'll certainly be reporting back to the board. Our renewal date is January 1. So we got plenty of time, but we think it's important to get on this early. It's already the middle of September, believe that or not. And that renewal time period is going to come real fast. The open enrollment window is very important, and that's in November. So really, we have between now and the end of October to get this wrapped up. So really, not much more than a month to really study our designs, and that's what we're going to be working with the committee on, getting the ground running on Thursday. Additional committee meetings will be scheduled as needed. We already have another one booked out in October. We'll also be working with the committee to determine the best ways to communicate with our staff. The last several years, we've kind of done the road show. Leah and I have visited each building, and Sam, and we've had benefit presentations. The last few years, there really haven't been many questions. Because like I said, there haven't been many changes. I hope there's not many changes this year, but I do think board members need to be aware that it could be more difficult for a 2023 renewal than it's been the last several years. Leah, did you have anything else you wanted to add in terms of timeline or anything?
I just wanted to know, when we created this document, we thought we were meeting the fourth Thursday of the month, but we changed it and moved it up a week, so this says September 22nd for the first committee meeting, but it's actually this week, the 15th.
Yeah.
And the same in October, that was moved up a week too, so this says the 27th, but it's really the 20th, so we'll get that updated.
Good catch. And we'll put a corrected document in the board docs. But we really felt it was important to get that first meeting this week, especially with the potential for changes coming.
Questions, discussion?
When you shop out for bids based on demographic data and so on, how many have you reviewed the document responses? How many companies have been interested in helping design the insurance plan based on those bids?
Well, I would say typically it would be a handful, maybe close to 5. I think the way things are now, Abe, I don't think it's gonna be that many.
Great.
So there's two things we're gonna be looking at. One is, company change. I really prefer not to do that if we can help it. We've been very pleased with the service that we've had from Medica. However, everything's on the table. We've had Humana in the school district, I believe it was for 27 years or something. And it says in the document, there was a change to Medica in 2015. We've been with Medica since then. But not only are we looking at the third-party administrator that we work with, we also look at plan design. So it really is kind of a dual review.
One of the reasons I ask is I know it's at the university, we've been told that one of the major insurers, the most common one that employees use in the university is going away. It just doesn't offer insurance anymore. And so lots of people are scrambling to figure out what they're going to do next with the options we have. So it's going to take a moment.
Yeah, and our staff, thankfully, has not had to experience much change. But I think what some people don't recognize is that in many areas of society, it's an annual decision. And we've tried to stay away from that. We know that providing consistency with people's health care is very important. We want to continue to prioritize that, but we also have to look at the bottom line and make sure we are using our resources for kids in the classroom the best we can.
Thanks. Any other discussion? Sounds good. All right. 5C, program resource reviews timeline.
Okay, I'm losing my voice. I apologize if it sounds like I just told Dave. I'm sorry. I'm sitting right here from him, but I want people to hear. But Brian Segman, our director, assistant superintendent for curriculum instruction, he's the one that really heads up these program resource reviews. So I'm going to let Brian share just a little bit with the school board about what's upcoming for this year.
All right. So this report is an annual report, just an update as to what programs we're going to review. We review on about a 6-year cycle, pending an update that comes from the state that requires us to make a change in our sequence. We have 2 programs that are up for review during this current school year. Our health programming, which is K-12, and our 4-year-old kindergarten program. To be the first comprehensive review of the 4-year-old kindergarten program since its inception in the district that incorporates all of those areas. Last year, you can see that we did English language arts and math. A couple of things to point out with our program reviews. They're very involved with staff participation from those programs. They take basically the entire year and we provide a report at the end as part of our major enrollment activities that we do for the school year. The basic premise each year is programs that are under review. We take a look at what are things that we're doing well for those programs, what are the strengths of those programs, but then what are some opportunities for growth or improvement over time. We try and time these program reviews so they coincide with the state level review of academic content standards associated with those areas, so that the action plans that get developed, if there are major changes with the standards, we've been fortunate the last few years there have not been major changes to state level standards, but if there are changes to the standards, pulling those standards out and getting staff up to speed and making sure that our curriculum is aligned with that, part of the action plan development. So our health education department, which is part of our FIED health and specific health, will be meeting starting a little bit later on this year. And our 4-year-old kindergarten program, that work begins next, it'll be a week from Tuesday, at our next 4-year-old kindergarten staff night. So if there are any questions, then happy to.
Any questions for Brian regarding the curriculum reviews?
So 4K is interesting cases the way books are up here, right? Is that so? Does that curriculum review involve all different private services in town that are up here?
Yep. So for people who may not know, we run a 4K collaborative partnership where we operate 2 sites within district buildings, one in this building and one and we partner with several other child care facilities and local partners. The university offers the program as well. so they will be involved in that process. And again, we're going through programmatically, because we're under the partnership with them, we do contract with an outside agency to do an annual program evaluation of the strengths of each of the programs. And that's generally what we use for our quality programming, because it's not necessarily the district or individual site saying these are the strengths. So it's I think a well designed.
Good questions? Resources look thorough and well thought out, so nice to have structure and guiding the process.
I guess I do have a question. It says the end of the school year is part of the process. I apologize, I haven't read all these documents. But will the board hear back about the program review?
Yep, so we include the summary reports as part of the reports that come at the end of the year with major goal of activities. And then depending on the desire of the board, sometimes we'll want that more information.
We saw the map in the first one.
Yeah.
5D, discuss planning for the 2023 State Education Convention.
So board members, you were all sent the information for the state convention. That typically is something that boards across the state attend regularly. With COVID, attendance really has been down the last couple of years. I highly encourage board members to make it work in their schedule. I know it's a big commitment. Typically you leave on Tuesday and you get back on Friday afternoon. But the state convention is terrific. There are terrific general sessions, and then there's a number of breakout sessions on pretty much every topic under the sun as it comes to education. It's very beneficial for board members to not only get a handle on best practices and changes in education, but it also provides some great networking opportunities. And you can hear how different school districts are working on some of the same things we are, and certainly some new things and some new ideas. I had asked board members to get back to Jenny by today, because I think a lot of schools, you're going to see a real high attendance this year. And to couple that, the Hyatt Regency downtown that has a walk to the convention center, my understanding is that the walk is going to be under construction. So it's going to be getting rooms down there is going to be more challenging, I think, than it has been in the past. So if you haven't talked to Jenny and you plan to attend, please talk to her after the meeting tonight. We do plan on booking the best accommodations that we can for the most reasonable price, probably tomorrow. So, any questions on that?
Anyone? All right, 5E, next meeting is committee reports. Coming up September 15th is the Health and Medical Committee meeting, is discussed briefly a minute ago. Special board meeting on the 26th at 5:45. The board member tour will be at 5:15 at Downsville Elementary next time. Downsville. School Safety Committee meeting on the 29th. Reconsideration was that. Okay. Education Material Review Committee meeting on the 29th at 4 p.m. in the boardroom, and then homecoming is September 30th. So we're moving right along. Any questions, concerns?
Yeah, I just have a clarifying question. Are these, meetings also like considered like public meetings? Like I know I'm not like on.
The reconsideration meeting would certainly be a public meeting. The other committees are more of internal district committees, but I want to put them out there for board members. I think what we could go, if you go back to the board docs and look at the reorg meeting, you can see which board members were appointed to which committee.
Right. So Carl's on the health care and what he's mentioned. I don't think there's a board member on the reconsideration committee.
No, there's not.
Board is basically that, is there a motion to adjourn? Amy? Mark second, all in favor? Aye. Aye. You're adjourned.